Good morning, everyone. This is our last day of APYDCON and our last social media connection. Welcome, everybody. We're going to start out with introductions. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Aray Sharice. I'm calling in from Texas. This is my first semester as an intern at SysG Group. I'm a student at USC. This is my fifth semester. And my areas of concentration are adult children caring for disabled or aging parents and disconnected teens or youth. Disconnected meaning teens and youth that are placed in rural areas so they have limited resources and programs to participate in, which leads to negative things like getting to trouble, drugs, early pregnancies, and things like that. I'm gonna go around the room, let everyone introduce themselves, and let us know your areas of concentration. Would you like to go first? Heather?
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Heather Mercer calling in from Spokane, Washington. And I'm also a student at USC MSW program. I will be graduating at the end of, in a few weeks, actually. And this is my third semester with the sister group. And my focus area is women with a prenatal diagnosis of Down syndrome.
Thank you, Heather.
I can go next.
Okay, Kat.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Catherine Page. I'm calling in from Madison, Wisconsin, and I am also MSW USC student. I'm in my 6th of 8 semesters, so I have 2 more to go. And this is my 2nd semester as an intern with the SISKI group. It's been a wonderful journey so far, and my areas of concentration are homelessness and transitional housing for homeless individuals and for victims of domestic violence.
All right, Miss Cynthia. You muted.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Cynthia Brown. I'm calling in from Dallas, Texas. This Sorry about that. This is my first year as assisting intern. It has been great. Technologically challenged and also time zone challenge, but I've been kind of working through that. My focus is corporate social responsibility, grief, and homelessness. And I'm a USC student in my 5th semester.
Alex?
Hi, my name is Alexis. I am also a USC student. It's my first semester here working with the SISKI group, but it is my second of 4 semesters at USC. My main concentration is actually youth homelessness, so this conference is really exciting for me, so I'm doing a lot about it, so I'm excited.
I can go ahead and go next.
Okay.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Andrea Summerlin. I'm calling in from Walport, Oregon. I finished the internship last December. I'm also a MSW at USC student, and I will be finishing the program on 27 August. And my focus areas were youth development and military and veteran families.
Jess?
Hello, my name is Jess. I am in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I am in about my 1.5 semester at SISG. Will end up being 2.5. And I'm in my 6th semester of 7 of the MSW at USC program. I'm usually thinking about tiny houses as alternative housing and trauma therapy through art somehow.
That's awesome, Jess. Now that everyone introduced themselves, we'll get into our discussion for this morning, afternoon. The past few days have been great. We had a lot of interesting topics in the youth conference, unconscious bias, leadership strategies. The workshops today are over social media and engagement and engaging youth and passion for inclusion. So my first question for discussion would be what could be some of the advantages and disadvantages of social media when concerning you? Anybody? Oh, Heather?
Um, yeah, this is interesting. I think we were talking about yesterday maybe the differences in generations, but uh, being that social media is kind of new, I didn't have to deal with social media stuff as a youth growing up. But I think some of the advantages is that it can connect people. As we know, maybe you use it like to connect with your old classmates or maybe old, friends that you grew up with that you no longer see. But so I think that part is great. I think the disadvantages is, and we've talked about this, is the because it's so readily available that sometimes people use it in a not very nice way, like cyberbullying or posting pictures that they don't, maybe they don't want their friends to see or they didn't want anyone to see. So I think the boundary is an issue. I think in some ways it can be positive by connecting people, but in other ways it can end up being detrimental to somebody's social life. So.
I agree. Anyone else? Advantages and disadvantages of social media when it concerning you? Cat?
Thanks. I agree with everything that Heather just said. It's a difficult issue. I think to me the biggest thing that I noticed, because my two boys were right on the edge of social media, so they didn't really get into it till they were like seniors in high school. And I saw that they were really outdoorsy, sportsy kind of guys, so I was lucky that way that they like to be outside all the time, riding bikes, playing sports. And I think the biggest fear to me, if I were a parent right now, is getting my kid out of the house, because I'm noticing that they're just so addicted. And it's hard for me to even conceive that fifth graders have cell phones. And not just cell phones, but like the smartphones. I know it's all part of the trend, and you have to kind of go by the rules of life. And if all their friends have them, and obviously for communication, to be able to pick your kids up, and if they're in trouble and they need you, there's all these great things about social media and having technology. But then again, like Heather was saying, we're dealing with a lot of bullying and a lot of kids not feeling included. They go on social media and they see all their friends at the movies, and maybe they weren't invited. There's just so many parameters with it that can bring about negativity. So it has to be a good balance. I think as educators, as parents, teachers, youth group workers, we have to make sure they understand that there's a balance with everything in life, and to make sure that it's moderated and in moderation.
I agree with you, Ted. Like, I have a 7-year old, and if he could, he would go to sleep with social media and he would wake up with it. So, as a parent, I limit his hours on his tablet and his games, because if not, it'll be no limit. So, you're right, boundaries are very important. And as parents and as an adult, how can what are some ways we can put boundaries on it? Like, what are some ways we can do that? Samira?
My mute button wouldn't appear, so I apologize for that. I think with the boundary piece, it's also kind of being open ourselves to being on technology a little bit. I think sometimes as people who did not grow up with it and are not exposed to it, sometimes it's kind of like, oh, that's that thing those kids do. And so figuring out what they mean when they're Snapchatting and who they're Snapchatting with and what that might be, taking the risk that, yes, you can be on Facebook, but mommy has to be your friend also. And you can't talk to people you don't know. You can't friend people you don't know. Those types of things can be a little bit of protection, because I think this kind of builds on your other question as well. One of the risks is that there is so many adults that sometimes are interacting with kids, and you can't necessarily manage that piece. And so trying to protect your child or youth that you interact with in your programming by being there, being present, seeing how the interactions are happening, and then also helping them to understand and really talking about how you create something today, but it lasts forever. I think we talked about that a little bit in the tweet chat that Kat hosted a couple weeks ago for kind of preempting APYDCON, and I think that's the real challenge with young people is they just don't really quite have that muscle yet to understand long-term consequences. And so helping them to see that it's great that you want to send someone you care about right now this cute picture or what you think is cute, but it can be shared by 18 million other people. And when you have a job, or you wanting to show the picture of you, inappropriately dressed. So thinking about how do I share, who do I share with, and that friendships change. Who you were friends with in elementary school, you're not friends with in middle school, and you're not friends with in high school. So being aware that you don't want to put everything online.
Exactly. Jess?
I like this conversation about boundaries. I think for me, I'm often working with people with their hands, building something somehow. And I think finding a way to fuse the two, that there's a balance between working with your hands and using social media if you're taking pictures and you're sharing, but then you're still using it as a tool and not necessarily as a complete lifeline. So any way that you can incorporate the two, I think is really important.
Alex?
And I think it's really important to see how social media has grown in the past couple of years. It's something that is talked about widely, but I think the power it has over me is it's so much more now. So for instance, cyber stalking is now one of the things of abuse. So it's not just physical, sexual, and all those mental. There's actual cyber stalking is a form of abuse now. It's part of bullying, so cyberbullying. And then there's just so many things that it's kind of eating its way in. And that I think is one of the most shocking things for me, how we're actually having to expand and add social media into all these things that I never thought would have to be in. You know what I'm saying? And it's like a whole nother category in all these already developed things, such as abuse, So it's like I would never even fathom thinking that it would be a form of abuse until just the past couple of years and how much social media expanded. And I think it's crazy because a couple of the study I was doing for girls group, they actually make it to one of the weeks that they talk about the need social media, the advantages, the disadvantages. And building off what everyone said, I think it's more just of getting the knowledge out there, because a lot of teenagers and even some adults, they don't realize that once it's out there, and you can't get it back. Even if you delete or untag yourself, it's still part of you. And so I think it's about awareness and getting that message out to kids who don't know, because even though you press delete, it's still there.
Just to build on that too, I think sometimes we think a lot about the impact that kids have, like, oh, you're going to put this out there and it might be negative, but adults have the same problems. I think with the election, you're really seeing a lot of the ugly coming out in adult conversations, and I like to sometimes look at people who have opposing views to mine, because sometimes you feel very comfortable in your insular conversations with your friends and your network, and so I'll read the comments in a article or something that I don't necessarily agree with, and to see the things that people will quickly type with their picture and their face, and it's linkable to their profile, and you hear about people losing their jobs and their organizations having to be, Sisti has had that, where someone posted something inappropriately on Facebook, and we as an organization had to deal with it. And I think often, again, organizations think of that as that thing the kids do or something you do in your personal life. But if you don't have a social media policy, if you have not thought about what do we condone, what are the things that we have put in place. We were lucky, and our interns know this, we have a discrimination and harassment policy that every single person has to sign before they're associated with our organization. And that's what we use as a metric for what you can post. So you can go ahead and act crazy online, but we can hold you accountable for that. And I don't think organizations really think about that. And to that point that Alexis is making, is that it is embedded in our culture in many different ways and is starting to overflow. And if you are running a program, if you're running an organization, and you're not thinking about how you connect to social media, even if you're not on the platform, but how your staff, your employees, the people, your volunteers, how they may use your brand, how they may talk about your organization, you're putting yourself at risk.
I agree. That makes perfect sense. Anyone else? I thought I saw some more hands. Miss Cynthia, I can't hear you.
Okay, there it goes. I was waiting on my mute button to appear. I think that everyone made great points about social media and how it's affecting the world today. And it's such a new form of communication engagement that there are really hardly any laws on how to police it when cyberbullying or cyber stalking or anything like that takes place. So it's such a new piece of the world that we live in. We really do have to be aware that what we put out there goes to the cloud. And as laws are becoming more, um, as laws are people are looking at the effects of the bad effects of it, I think that the laws need to be stricter or laws need to be implemented to protect the victims who are being bullied or being stalked by social media. And that's just the bad side of it. The good side of it that I see is that we're able to connect virtually, like we are on this chat, in different time zones, in different cities and states. And here we are able to engage, about this topic. So it could be a great thing too. And we just have to teach our children to be responsible like we do with anything else with social media. It's just one of those things you have to teach responsibility for.
Thank you, Miss Cynthia. That was a great point. Heather?
Yeah, just building off of what Cynthia was saying, I think so much of it is can be through modeling. So Kath was talking about not wanting her kids to be on the phones or and you even talked about setting boundaries with your son. Well, then the same rules have to apply to us. I mean, we were just talking about earlier how we all work virtually. So I could be in the grocery store talking to one of my colleagues, but I feel like creating boundaries, even though ours may not be being on Snapchat for 5 hours and ours is working, we have to model what we want our kids to see is that during dinner, put your phone away. We're having a conversation or whatever your family rules might be. I feel like modeling and even not going on a Twitter rant or whatever when something happens and showing our kids to practice self-control. I'm like, okay, someone said something that really bothered me and how can I think through this and not just be so rash to add a hashtag that's going to live on forever. So I think that's a really great way that we can educate our kids is by practicing what we preach and practicing good practices around social media so that we can be a good role model for our own children and then those that we work with as well.
Yeah, awesome, Heather. I like those points. And it's very important to model and show the youth how we would like for them to use social media and going on. With time person, we have like less than 15 minutes for our social media connection to end. So we're going to jump into our other topic of discussion, which is inclusion. The later workshop is passion for inclusion. Um, I had to do a little research about inclusion. I was really not very informed, and it is great information out there. My focus was the education of inclusion, meaning teaching the children or youth with differences. I don't want to say problems, but differences like cultural and disabilities that they may be facing, how to make them kind of feel equal to students that they see as a regular student. And my question is, what opportunities does social inclusion provide for youth people? Okay, Camila.
I really should push the mute
Um,
button when I'm raising my hand. Sorry.
I got it.
Oh, Cynthia's talking. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Okay, thank you, the narrator. The social inclusion piece, I think, is a positive piece because if you have children who, or even adults who have been excluded because of, say, disability limitations, social media gives them the opportunity to feel, I don't want to say normal for lack of a better word, to fit in with their peers, because they're able to chat. And technology is such so that where you don't even have to use your hands or fingers to chat. You can just speak in chat. So it's a good thing because it helps everyone fit in. which I think is very, when you think about youth, I think that's really a big piece of the culture. Everyone wants to fit in to the now thing, so it can be a positive thing, the inclusion piece.
I'll build on that, Arisha. This is the fourth year of the conference and the fourth time we've had a workshop on inclusion. I think it's a really important topic in youth development. Too often, I think youth development kind of there's programs for young people with disabilities, and then there's programs for all other young people. And there needs to be a more thoughtful way that we include young people, regardless if it's disability, if it's around language, if it's around diverse cultural experiences, that all young people get the same experience, they get the same access, and that programs, when we're designing our programs, we really think about how do I make this possible for a young person to participate. So we've had some really great presenters in the past. For those of you who are watching and are interested in this topic and how you can think about this, Girl Scouts of America has a whole department and a whole leader who's been in our conference the past 2 years and talked about making Girl Scouts more inclusive for young people with particularly physical disabilities. But I think it's really important, whether it's an after-school tutoring program or it's sports program, that when people are designing their programs, they think about, okay, how do I make this accessible? Are we choosing parks where someone with in a wheelchair would not be able to participate, or someone on crutches would not be able to participate? Am I choosing mentors that look like my young people, whether that's, or who have diverse experiences? So am I even recruiting individuals who have maybe physical disabilities or other types of disabilities to be mentors, to be volunteers, so that young people, even if that's not their experience, they can see a caring adult. It exposes them to difference. I'm just a real believer in the more we experience others, regardless of what that difference might be, the more rounded we are. We can't keep that piece that Melissa shared on Monday. We can't keep that unconscious bias that people are a certain way, or they have these certain limitations, or they can't do this, because we've never been exposed to someone who's different than our particular lens. I see the world as, a Black woman of West Indian descent who lives in this particular way, who's a single parent. That's my life. And if I don't meet somebody or interact with somebody who has a different viewpoint, I'll never know the possibility. And I think it shouldn't be that it's a special effort that we have to go outside of our everyday to try and find those opportunities. They should be embedded in the things that we do. So when I take my son to gymnastics, it should be just as accessible for children who don't have the same abilities that he does. So my 2 cents.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Blair. I really like that too. I mean, like you said, it should be embedded. It shouldn't be a thought. It shouldn't be something that is an afterthought. No, it should be embedded in society today. Kat, I see your hand.
Yes, ma'am. That was interesting, Thanera. Thanks for that. And that made me reminded me of something, that sometimes inclusion doesn't always have to be so straightforward. It can have a little gray area. Kind of think outside the box, and I'll give you a real life example. When I worked for Special Olympics, the athletes that were with our program, they were not able to be on their local high school or elementary school track teams because of their disabilities. So that's why we have Special Olympics. And a way that the community included them, which I thought was just amazing, was there was a track meet here in town at one of the local high schools. It's very well known in the Midwest. It's called the Monona Grove Invitational Track Meet, and they actually invited my area Special Olympians to participate in what they called just mock heats. So they allowed them to come, and the scores that they got, we actually were able to use then for their area meet. Their coaches were able to use those, and I just thought that was a really amazing way to have inclusion in an area that you really can't. So it goes to show you, never stop thinking. Always think of other ways that you can include people, even if it's not a traditional way.
Yes, that's awesome. Anyone else? Oh, Heather?
Yeah, I love that example. Thanks, Kat. And also, I feel like it's not just a one-way street inclusion. The benefit is for all parties involved. So actually, the speaker today is a teacher at my daughter's school, and what I love so much about her school is that my daughter is able to, I feel like our youth and the programs that we provide for them should be like just a small glimpse into what the future and the world's going to be like. So, for example, at school, doing their homework is more than just an academic activity, but it also teaches them to be accountable for themselves, have integrity, turn in things on time, deadlines, things like that. Well, I also feel like their school experience socially should reflect that as well. And in the world, we're going to see more than just, like Danira was talking about, one type of person. We're going to come in contact with all types of people. And what skills have we acquired to interact with those people? And I'm grateful that my daughter has the opportunity to be with students that, of all types of abilities, all different backgrounds, because she learns then that the world is more than just looks one certain way, but that there's people of all kinds, and we don't treat them any differently. They're just our peers, you know. And I feel like when this is my area that's close to my heart, but I feel like people with disabilities are kind of the last segregated minority group, and the more that we expose our youth to people of all kinds, and they realize they're just like me, because they are. We all have hang-ups and drawbacks and things that we can't do, but if we don't focus on those, we talk about what we can do and their strengths, then I feel like we all can find a common ground somewhere.
That is excellent. To focus on everyone's strength. I like that, Heather. Anyone else? Anyone else on inclusion? Well, we're wrapping up our social media connection today. This was an awesome conversation. Um, we have a few more minutes. Anybody else have anything that they would like to talk about or discuss? Danira?
Since we have a minute, I'd just like to hear what you all have thought so far about the experience having, and maybe Andrea, now that you're an alum and moved on, kind of what it's like to be on the other side when you don't have the stress of planning and coordinating and can just kind of listen in. What do you think about the professional development opportunity, the speakers, those types of things? Just kind of thoughts on the experience.
Thank you, Thanera. Yeah, it's a lot easier this year without, like you said, the stress of the behind-the-scenes work that happens for the conference. I think this is a wonderful opportunity. I've enjoyed the speakers so far, especially since I'm in a rural area and professional development is kind of few and far between. So this is a great chance for people like that work in small towns and stuff to get this piece, and I'm looking forward to the workshops today.
That's it?
And to piggyback on what Danira and Andrea were speaking about, the speaker on yesterday, he talked about professional goals and growth stretch goals and how it equals our next. So this internship has been challenging, but it's also, and that's the stretch part of it, it's opened up a different piece. I can just be personal, a different piece of, you think you know something, but you really don't. There's so much more to grow and stretch so you can get ready for your next, whatever that may be. So I think that everyone should experience something that's not their norm, you know, so that we can be prepared globally for the world that we're going to all live in. You know, we're going to be connected globally, universally, and it's going to take internships like this to prepare us, you know, and to prepare us to be the leaders, the social change agents that we signed on to be. So I'm happy about the internship, glad for the opportunity, and it's been a great connection. And I figure I'll get this technology down before it's over.
You will, Cynthia. You will. We all learn, even us younger generations. Because I'm like, I got on board. I'm like, okay, I don't know. You know, I've been giving the headline look for a while now. But I am enjoying the challenge. I am enjoying the challenge. The mirror is great. Um, so we're wrapping up our social connection. Make sure everyone follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter for the last and awesome day of the APYD conference. And we'll talk to you guys later.